Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Matthew.
Episode 226, recorded for the week of August 30th, 2023. Duet, Copilot, and a Codewhisperer walk into a bar in San Francisco. Good evening, Matt and Ryan. How's it going?
Hello.
Good.
It's going
How
well.
are you guys?
I'm a little tired. It is Friday, so because we are recording after we got back from Google Next, where we've been enjoying the week, talking to Google and drinking all of the AI Kool-Aid you could possibly drink.
Don't worry, there's more to come. Google, Microsoft's conference is next.
Well, reInvent's coming up soon too.
Yeah, it's going to be AI for a while, I fear.
Yeah, it'll be at least until it hits the trough of disillusionment, and then it'll be after that.
It's like Bitcoin and all that stuff from years ago. It's somewhere still out there.
Mm-hmm.
And blockchain.
Yeah, I saw a Web3 service announcement like buried deep somewhere. I laughed.
We're still relevant.
Good old Web3. Pump and dump schemes all day, every day. Well, we should probably get into it because we do have quite a few things to talk about from Google Next in general. So, but let's start with some general news first. I think we mentioned Code LLama in passing maybe a week or two ago. So Facebook, or Meta, as they like to be known, is releasing Code LLama, which is apparently a code partner, similar to Copilot, Duet AI, and Codewhisperer. And so now you can code Llama, which there better be stickers, Meta. Come on, stickers for this one. But apparently this is source code for the Llama 2 based code specialized large language model in three sizes: 7 billion, 13 billion, or 35 billion parameters. Each model is trained with 500 billion tokens of code and code-related data, and the 7 billion and 13 billion base and instructor models have also been trained with fill-in-the-middle capability, allowing them to insert code into your existing code. And the whole idea of this is that you can take this code model and build it yourself using your own code added to the model as well, to potentially, I think, give you the ability to run a model that's kind of customized to your business, but you're not giving all of your private code data to OpenAI or to BART or one of the other services that's out there on the internet. And so that's kind of interesting. It was interesting as well that they did announce you can use the new Llama 2 code Llama with Google services with Vertex AI. So that was announced at Google Next this week as well as day one support for Llama 2 in a bunch of the Vertex AI models. So lots of traction for all these Codewhisperer type products, and one more that now is a little bit more customizable to you. Yeah,
I mean, you can't argue with the giving it away for free and making it open. And when I think about all the investment and time and compute cycles that went into that, it's a pretty big gift to the community that Meta's doing. So I can't see anything wrong with this. I'm burnt out on AI because I have to hear it every 5 minutes this week, but it's pretty cool. Like, I'll probably see if I can play around with it in my copious amounts of free time that I have somehow.
Apparently it can run on one GPU. So I was trying to figure out if it could run on a Mac M1 or M2 GPU. And I could run it locally on my Mac. It'd be kind of neat.
That would be neat.
So I have a project to go look and see if someone's trying to do this craziness as well. Because I don't want to do it myself because I don't know enough about AI. But if someone's got some tutorial work, I would be interested in trying to figure this out. So, because it'd be nice to write code like on a deserted island with no internet. So then the AI is with me. I can write my code.
AI is following you to your desert island.
Exactly. Sounds very peaceful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially after this week at Google Next.
Yeah.
Anything would be great.
Me time.
I mean, it's interesting if you go like deep into the article, they start to digress into like, hey, the 7 and the 13 billion are better for like near real time, response back, and the 34 billion, if I'm remembering, / skimming the article quick enough to actually find the right number. Yeah, 34 billion is better for like fine tuning for yourself. So they really go into a little bit more detail of how to do it. And, I think they also put out some code snippets if you kind of dive into it a little bit more, which I thought was very nice. And like Ryan said, it's a great gift to open up, a lot of these things to smaller businesses and not just be like, here, Microsoft, or here, Google, have all my source code to everything in the world.
Yeah. No, it's not really a gift though. Well, I mean, it's a gift to Amazon, Azure, and GCP because if you want to rerun this model using the open source code, It only costs you $1 bajillion. So it's a gift to the cloud providers from Meta to you.
But if you could run it on your laptop,
that was a show title we should have had.
we struggled on the show titles.
Yeah.
But if you could run it on your laptop, like you said, if you could actually let every developer run this on their laptop, and just by breaking every computer in your organization, you could actually produce, something that's a lot more fine-tuned for you, which could be interesting.
Well, a few weeks here on the show, short weeks ago, we talked about HashiCorp adopting the BSL license. And then we talked about the OpenTF group writing a manifesto pleading HashiCorp to reopen it. And guess what? HashiCorp didn't listen to it. And so they have officially forked Terraform, the last non-BSL version of the Terraform code. And they are rapidly working on getting a repo up and running for you, so you can be able to start contributing to their open source contribution. I'm hoping to have that in the next week or two, with a goal of having a official OpenTF.1.6 release sometime in the next few months. They are being somewhat public about how they're doing this. They have a roadmap. They have issues and commits in the main support us type repo. And they'll be posting links to the official repos once those are up and running very shortly. Are you guys surprised about this? I'm not surprised.
No.
I'm not surprised.
That there's drama in the tech community over changing of licensing. I've never heard that before.
Well, if you really want an opinion that says they hate this, I have a 75 tweet thread written by Vlad Ionescu about why he thinks the OpenTF is the biggest waste of time in the history of the world, which is sort of funny to me. And he goes on to talk about the way you build an open source community is you go get adopters, and these 4 or 5 paid for startup companies are barely putting $1 million into this effort, and that the only way true open source happens is if you have a bunch of commercial things. And then he discredits 2 of their examples of why they said HashiCorp doesn't care about the community. One was around state file encryption, and the other was around custom implementers, I think. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
And then
basically, APIs.
Yeah. That was a custom API.
Yeah.
And then, basically kind of went on a whole thing about it, and basically said, come back to me in 3 months. And if I'm wrong, then I'll admit that I'm wrong. So I'll be making a note of that to follow up in 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to get community support to drive a fork for something as large as Terraform. I agree there that it's going to be a challenge. I don't know if I agree with anything else. I was trying to read the thread and trying to sort of not have a visceral reaction to the tone, and it's while complaining about drama in the most dramatic way possible, it defeated the purpose for me. And I was looking for a little bit more insight, because I dove very deep, and I haven't really formed an opinion on if this is a good idea or not. Yeah, I don't know. I think the jury's still out, and continue to watch and see if it takes off and becomes a thing.
I mean, so I tweeted back at him, and I was like, well, how do you see this is very similar to what happened with OpenSearch. Same idea, other than Amazon was backing OpenSearch.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the only big difference is that there was a bigger player who was backing it than these 4 or 5 startups that are backing this. What do you really see as the big difference here? Fundamentally, it's the same challenge Amazon had, other than Amazon has more influence probably with other companies. But if there's people who are really sold on N0 or StackSets or those different products that leverage Terraform, maybe they're willing to spend $1 million a year on open source because they think there's more value than that. And one of his arguments he had too was, why don't you just go sign a licensing agreement with HashiCorp for $1 million? I don't know that HashiCorp's willing to do that. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen any indication that HashiCorp's willing to sell a license to basically embed Terraform into a competitive product to Terraform Enterprise. So, I mean, it's a great in theory that, if I was to spend $1 million on 5 engineers, why wouldn't I just go spend that money on the license? But I don't know that's an option. So it's sort of a kind of a false pretense.
Yeah. I mean, they'd have to be thinking that they weren't giving up $1 million in revenue in that, right? Which is, I'm like, I'm not sure.
I mean, while Terraform itself is valuable, to me, it's a lot of the providers and all those things. And if they can keep, having the ability to connect to AWS, GCP, everywhere that you need to connect to, I've done things in Terraform where It completely bootstraps the entire environment, including the SQL database, all via the provider. So it creates the RDS, launches then and connects via SQL into it, does whatever it needs to do. And like, it's great. It works, and that to me is a lot of the value of it. The Terraform of just orchestrating, connecting to the providers, running it, well, yes, is, the core of it. I mean, maybe it's because I don't do it every day right now, but like I still use a lot of like .11 or .12, .13 features and not a lot of the 1.0 dynamics and a lot of that type of stuff. So like once a lot of that's there, how much iteration and maybe you guys or anybody else knows, but like I feel like there hasn't been a dramatic change in Terraform in a while. So like if they fork it now, they get a lot of these base features of that built the community and built everything around it. What else are they going to build into Terraform at this point that's going to be completely revolutionary, that isn't going to just be incremental updates, versus if OpenTF takes what they have, it's all there already. And the value to me is in a lot of the providers having the APIs to everything.
New providers, though, are they going to have to support both platforms? Like that's the real, I think the trick is, I think you're right. A lot of the value is that integration point. That's where that's such a dangerous thing in the community is everyone's now having to support two, probably.
I'm sure you guys remember when Elasticsearch moved over, they like made it so that you can't connect with a non-Elasticsearch connector to it. And like, I'm just kind of envisioning that happening where like AWS, Terraform AWS updates their provider to not only allow, this, and it becomes a chicken and egg. Okay, you did this, we do this. I feel like Palm OS did it with like iTunes back in the day, where like it was like a little bit of a chicken egg. Like we connect to iTunes, and then Apple blocked it. Like I just don't see where this is going to go for them.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. That's the big mystery of this whole thing. We talked about it a couple times. You're out, I think, those 2 episodes, but we're not sure exactly where it goes. But I also, the one that someone pointed out was, Mongo did this before, right? Mongo changed their licensing. I'm sure somebody tried to create an open Mongo. I don't know. I didn't look. But fundamentally, after people got through the gnashing of teeth and the politics of it, that ultimately Mongo has been successful and probably more successful as a company since they went, to a BSL type license. And for Terraform itself, I don't think it's a bad call. I sort of dislike the fact that they're kind of locking out other people who are making better products than Terraform Enterprise. Because I think the N0 and StackSets and these other products are better products than Terraform Cloud. And that's the part that I want OpenTF to be successful for those, because I do like to have the alternative to it. And I do think those products are better in some ways. But I do want to see the community spark and have people who are interested in supporting it. A cloud provider would definitely make me feel better about it. It's like the OpenSearch product. But we'll see. Only time will tell what happens here. Moving on to AWS, they're introducing a new Glacier feature that allows you to lock your vault with a variety of compliance controls that are designed to support the important record retention use case. Once locked, the policy cannot be overwritten or deleted, and Glacier will enforce the policy and will protect your records according to the controls. And the fact that it took 10 years for them to come up with a way for you never to delete data you have to pay for if you configure this incorrectly sort of makes me laugh. But now you can have a really bad mistake by an intern that costs you a lot of money for a very long time if you're not careful. So be careful with this one. Creating the wrong policy could cause your data not to be deletable for quite a while.
Couldn't you do that with the legal hold feature also in S3? So I just assumed that it already existed. So in my head, this was like, oh wait, this wasn't already there in S3 because it was a feature of S3. So I just didn't even realize.
Well, the legal hold I think is just on S3. So this is on Glacier.
Yeah, I just didn't realize. In my head they kind of merge as product lines. So when I read this announcement, I was like, oh wait, I thought they already did this.
Yeah. I mean, sort of. They definitely sort of did it before, but now they do it everywhere. Glacier. Yeah. Glacier is attached, and you can't use it technically without S3, but yet they're still separate products. You always have to kind of remember that. It's a little strange.
I mean, in the days of ransomware, there's a cheap way to get, protection there for that. Like, good.
Yeah, it's a great solution for ransomware. So.
Yeah.
So if I put a 10-year retention lock and I go bankrupt and I stopped paying for my AWS bill, Is the file still going to be there in 10 years?
I mean,
Or do they
for those
delete it?
those who have had the experience of actually running an account and then deleting that account and not having turned things off before you deleted it, and then realized you can still connect to those resources, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, you won't be able to get to it, but that data will be there.
Well, did you guys know that Amazon has a managed Flink service?
Did not.
It didn't either, but they do. And it's called Amazon Kinesis Data and Analytics, or at least it was. But now they're renaming it to Amazon Managed Services for Apache Flink, which is sort of funny because Ben Kehoe actually tweeted about this when they announced it, that he's had this conversation many, many times where he said, yeah, you can just use the Managed Flink service for AWS. And then someone would say, wait, they have a Managed Flink offering? And that's the problem with these kind of cute names like Kinesis Data Analytics or Kinesis Data Firehose, which I believe is some form of Presto. These things are just other projects and other things that are very popular in the community that have different naming that fits into the Amazon ecosystem, but fail to be discoverable by normal humans.
Well, especially since Kinesis isn't really a Kafka-based product. Does a very similar thing, but isn't the code base. And so to have Flink and Presto be named Kinesis Data Analytics and Kinesis Firehose, I think. No. Anyway. It's pretty interesting because I did not know this was Apache Flink, but I also don't know what Apache Flink does. So.
It's a double-edged sword.
It's one of the many ways you can import and extract, transform, or load your data into a data warehouse of some kind.
Oh, good. I needed another way.
Yeah, another way. If you didn't have enough, you now have one more way to go. Amazon has released the dumbest compute optimizer yet, as far as I can tell. And I am judging it purely by reading just this press release they announced. The AWS Compute Optimizer now supports licensing cost optimization for SQL Server, making recommendations like downgrading your SQL Server Edition to Standard Edition or BYOL licensing, which seems like really dumb choices. Because if the reason why companies typically use Enterprise is because they have features that they need in Enterprise. And so just moving to Standard Edition might be something the FinOps person would recommend to you, but you as a true DBA or DBA engineer would know that that's a bad idea because now you can't do things like online reindexing of your indexes. Or rebuilding your full table scans, etc. So it would be not really recommended to do that. And then the idea of just move to BYOL licensing, that's a good way to get in trouble with Microsoft. Because now you just change your servers to BYOL licensing and you don't have a licensing and you get audited. That's a bad day for your auditors.
I was hoping this goes a little deep into like CPU and core recommendations, and because that's also a big factor of SQL Server licensing. But I don't know. Can you really optimize Microsoft SQL Server? Truly?
All I know is you both know way more about Microsoft SQL licensing than I know. And I'm very happy about that.
But you work on Azure. You should know way more about SQL Server licensing by now.
No, because you know what that company does for you? It's amazing.
Right.
I don't have to deal with it. I say, give me a server, give me a database, encrypted transit, and I'm done. I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, not only do you not have to manage licenses, but he gets a better product.
That's true. That's very true.
That's questionable. Better product is questionable. Yes.
Versus what it's Microsoft SQL Server. There's features in the Azure workload that's different.
Yeah. But no, you rattled off features. I was like, I don't know what's in standard versus enterprise, and I'm happy to be ignorant in this case.
Single table, no SQL. Thank you very much. Take your stored procedures and your relational structures.
All right. Well, it's time to talk about the big topic in the room. That's Google Cloud Next.
Woohoo!
There was a theme.
Can you guess what it is?
It was AI everywhere, AI in everything you do, AI at even places you didn't think you wanted AI, or AI that you didn't know existed in that spot. So lots of AI. The keynotes were interesting. TK and Sundar did the primary keynote. They did have a couple of guest speakers. One very overly caffeinated big data AI person who was very excited to be there and was very vocal, very animated, which was sort of fun. But overall, the production quality, for a Google keynote, still high, top notch. TK though felt a little stiff, maybe a little nervous, like maybe he's been locked in a box somewhere for 2.5 years of pandemic since the last time he talked in 2019 on stage. He seemed a little awkward, a little stiff at times. And I did hear from somebody who was up close and personal to the teleprompter that there are several areas where the text was in a certain color that indicated he was supposed to smile while saying it, which everyone loves a good forced smile. That's not creepy at all. The overall event sessions and venues, San Francisco Moscone Center, and all of its issues and challenges were in place, including overly expensive hotel rooms, terrible food venues, and a underground bunker of a convention center. All the great pitfalls of the Moscone Center, unfortunately. Although it is here locally to me, I did decide to stay at the venue instead of trying to drive to and from my house, because that would be ridiculously crazy in the terrible San Francisco traffic. But good news for me, it's going to be in Vegas next year, so I don't have to go back to San Francisco Moscone for this.
Yeah, I felt like a traitor.
They've outgrown Moscone.
Just getting a hotel room. I'm like, this is cheating. But I wasn't willing to brave, an hour and a half to 2 hour commute every day. And then a long conference. Yeah. And then a long conference day.
So overall, what was your impressions of the event, Ryan, since you were there with me wandering
So
around?
I don't mind Moscone nearly as much as you do as far as the venue. I do agree the food where they placed near Rowena Gardens and having it be outside in the blazing sun was a little rough. But I thought they laid out the space really well. I thought that the couple sessions that I was able to attend, were very full and crowded, but it wasn't so bad. It's just a lot of people trying to go to the same thing.
I mean, it felt like a pretty dead conference compared to reInvent. So definitely, it didn't feel like I was wall to wall, people to people, which was a nice change of pace.
Yeah,
for a cloud conference.
That's I think that artificially keeping the number of attendees down is probably a good idea, just because it is really painful to attend some of these when they're at full tilt. And so, I don't know, if what COVID has done to the numbers, but I really enjoy the last couple that I've gone to where there's not a lot of people. It's not empty, but it's also just not you're not breathing on everyone.
Yeah. Matt, did you have a chance to check out any of the sessions or any of the content or the Twitter sphere topics and conversations about the event?
Can't say I did. I had a very busy week. It was on my list before we did the podcast tonight and just didn't make it to it.
Well, good. This will all be new to you. So we'll give you all kinds of gifts.
Real-time reaction.
Yeah, real time. So nice and early on Tuesday morning, they sent an email with all the announcements they were going to make at the entire conference, which was very handy for doing podcast show notes. There's only one article to summarize, which was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it's a very deep, long list of things. And so first up, they do have a bunch of new titanium-backed hardware, which allows them to do faster processing, machine learning, and AI capabilities. They didn't talk about this too much, although TK talked about it for a couple of minutes on main stage. This is really their competitor to Nitro, which he didn't use the word Nitro, but for those of you who've been kind of sticking around in the cloud world, all the Nitro type things are in the titanium-backed hardware. Faster access to disk, faster access to networking without the overhead on the CPUs. So nice to see them also doing some custom silicon work, which I appreciate. But getting to things that you actually do care about. First up, Jonathan gets a point with the new Cloud TPU V5e, the most cost-efficient, versatile, and scalable purpose-built AI accelerator to date. Now customers can use single Cloud TPU platform to run both large-scale AI training and inference, which apparently in the TPU V4 you would do with different workloads or something. Fully understand that, but apparently you can do now both of those together. And if you didn't like burning money enough with that, you could also have the new A3 VMs with NVIDIA H100 GPUs to receive better training performance over the prior Gen 2 GPUs. So the fire burning options were up front and center of the conference, which is always great.
Like many of the giveaways at the conference floor, if Jonathan's not here to claim his prize, does he actually get it?
Oh, that's a good call.
Ooh,
He's not here. I would then take the win. So I would not be opposed to this.
We go with half a point.
Yeah.
I feel like Justin's too good at this.
I just got lucky.
We got to give him a handicap.
I also learned some interesting things about Anthos. In my mind, Anthos has always been this thing you use for multi-cloud GKE. And I was proudly corrected by a product manager on the Anthos GKE team. He said, no. Our biggest population of Anthos users is actually on GCP. It can do those multi-cloud things too, or on-prem, but really it's designed to simplify your life and provide a bunch of additional features on top of GKE. And in recognition of that, they did rebrand it basically to GKE Enterprise, which enables multi-cluster horizontal scaling, plus GKE features like auto-scaling, workload orchestration, automatic upgrades, and they now support those new fancy Cloud TPU v5es for all of you trying to do your training models inside of a container. Several features in GKE Enterprise that we should talk about: the new multi-cluster feature or fleets. So this allows you to set up multiple fleets of Kubernetes nodes that you can then allocate to different user groups or security domains. And then inside of those security domains, they can manage their own namespaces without having to worry about namespace collisions and all the other nastiness that Ryan hates about Kubernetes. So he can talk about that. Some new managed security features, a fully integrated and fully managed platform, and hybrid and multi-cloud support. Their enterprise edition includes the ability to group similar workloads into dedicated clusters, apply custom configurations and policy guardrails, isolate your sensitive workloads, delegate your cluster management to somebody else, spend less time managing the platform, and run a container workload anywhere you want to run it.
Yeah, I was in the same product conversation, so me and Justin were both wide-eyed, like going, "Oh, right, that's not what I thought that was," as they're going over features. And this really does a really good job tying a bow around almost every gripe I've had around, companies moving to Kubernetes without really funding it as a platform team, giving it to a group of developers or old sysadmins and be like, "Here you go." Because it's a complicated tool that a lot of people, set it up with the defaults, and then you have just full access to everything with all kinds of security issues and stability issues, and just some scary stuff. But these features really address all of that, right? It turns Kubernetes into a platform offering, and that still need a centralized team who's going to own it and love it and take care of it. But being able to sort of empower their downstream users to, update when they want and upgrade and take a little bit of control is super powerful. And I love it.
Yeah, I always describe Kubernetes as it's as complicated as a cloud. Like, there's so many aspects of it. There's so many things that you have to do with it to maintain, secure it, everything that you just talked about, Ryan, that it's no different to me than AWS, GCP, Azure. If you really want to go with Oracle, you're more than welcome to. But, it's as complicated as it, and you have to do all the fine tuning with it. So having some of these things a little bit more out of the box is definitely nice. And it's why whenever I hear, "Hey, this 50-person company is running Kubernetes," I'm like, "Oh God, why? Do you actually have people that know what you're doing?" One of the features that stuck out to me on this, though, was really the multi-cluster feature. I've seen a couple of companies want to do like where it's like a multi-office structure where they run little clusters at every office, and being able to centrally manage it is definitely something that I know has kind of been growing inside the Kubernetes world, but is nice to see a little bit more maintained in this product too.
And, it is still the Anthos we've grown to love, right? So it's still a huge multi-cloud or hybrid cloud opportunity for a ton of people and companies, right? So that they can have sort of a consistent experience to offer across, their data centers and any one of the cloud hypervisors. So pretty cool there too.
Yeah. And they fixed a lot of the pricing problems too that it originally had. Remember, I think we used to talk about the $10,000 a month minimum with a 12-month contract commitment. So you're in $120,000 just to get started with it. And now they've moved all of that into like per CPU licensing models that, it's a tax, of course, you're going to pay more for it, but it's more aligned to your workloads and what you're actually doing versus something that didn't really have a lot of connectivity to anything that mattered.
I'd be curious to see, and I don't know that you ever would, but like Google put out, "Hey, this many number, this percentage of customers actually are using it for multi-cloud versus multi-cluster versus, how are people actually leveraging the enterprise product?" Like, just because I feel like multi-cloud story, as we've talked about, is, always a great thing to say you do, but very few people do it and do it well. And obviously Anthos/GKE Enterprise helps with a lot of that, but I'd be curious to see how many people are actually leveraging it for that.
So they talked about, again, product manager conversation, I'd be kind of sensitive here because I don't want to say something I'm not allowed to say. But, they alluded to customers, in multi-cloud scenarios doing it exactly this. They're their primary use case is GCP, but then they get into a situation where they need to go into a country or to a data center where they don't have a GCP region, and this is a really easy solution for them to extend basically their Google Cloud into a different region, either on a different cloud provider or in a colo they've set up. They said that is a very common pattern that they use and see.
And you can adopt a cluster that's already running a workload into GKE Enterprise, which is something that I thought was super, super cool too. So it's like, even if you're not running there, you don't have to like break it all down and start again. You can just sort of adopt and get a lot of these features natively.
Have you been waiting months and months to hire your new AWS, GCP, or Azure architect, only to have them be poached at the 11th hour by a startup with a juice bar? Initiatives stalled because you're having trouble hiring? Well, I have a simple solution: Foghorn Consulting. Foghorn Consulting provides top-notch cloud engineers to the world's most innovative companies and can be burning down your DevOps and cloud backlogs as soon as next week. Foghorn certified AWS, GCP, and Azure professionals are armed with infrastructure as code, and from day one will be designing performant, optimized cloud-native or hybrid environments that deliver on the promise of cloud. Their FogOps solution even provides on-demand cloud engineering to augment your existing teams. Visit www.foghornconsulting.com or send an email to cloudtalentnow@foghornconsulting.com and tell them the CloudPod sent you. Your dedicated FogOps team is with you for the long haul, and they bring their own juice.
Well, if you have ever had multiple clouds or even a data center, connecting to the clouds together is sort of kind of an interesting journey of third-party vendors and telcos that make it kind of painful and a process, and there's lots of fees and lots of things you got to watch out for when you're doing inter-cloud connectivity. But now with the new cross-cloud networking capability, the global networking platform helps customers connect and secure applications across the cloud. It is open, workload optimized, and offers ML-powered security to deliver zero trust capabilities and reduces your your cross-cloud network latency by 35%. They say there's 3 key tenets to it: being open, secure, and optimized. And allows you to address those distributed apps, secure access for hybrid workloads, or deliver internet-facing apps altogether. It supports Alibaba Cloud, AWS, Azure, and OCI. And I found a quote that resonates probably with Ryan. Aaron Lake, Senior Vice President and CIO at Yahoo. Yahoo Mail is moving its backend to Google Cloud and leveraging the planet-scale network for high performance and secure access to Google's data services. Cross-cloud network interconnects for high-scaled and high-performing secure access to Spanner and BigQuery will help Yahoo deliver performance and security across hundreds of millions of mailboxes.
Yeah. I mean, it's super cool. When I worked for Yahoo, they were very heavy a data center company. And that was my primary role was automating a lot of that inner company sort of play for launching infrastructure. So building our own versions of AWS and Azure services at the time. And so to see them, taking advantage of the public ones is great, right? Because they're at a scale that is going to make the product really good for everyone else. And that's, there's a lot of challenges. Yahoo Mail has been around a long time and it's very popular globally. So it's, that's some serious workloads. That's cool.
I mean, I judge you every time you send me mail from your Yahoo account. So.
I know you do. I bleed purple, man. It sticks with you.
I asked you if it was a real email that you gave me the first time, or you're giving me a fake email address.
I mean, I have all the other ones too, because, the first thing I did was go out and get everyone, but
you got to lock in your email address.
But then people started making fun of me in Yahoo, and I'm a contrarian. So
yeah, no, I know. This is the thing. If you want Ryan to stop doing something, you can't mention it at all. You have to ignore it. Well, that wasn't the only network fun that they gave us. They gave us global access and global backends, which allow private clients from any region to access internal load balancers in any Google Cloud region. For global access. And the global backends allows internal ALB to health check and send traffic to globally distributed backend services. So you can think about really making your troubleshooting complicated across your network with this, but nice to have the flexibility and supportability of that. To simplify the networking layer, VPC spoke support in Network Connectivity Center now lets you smoothly scale VPC connectivity, providing reachability between a large number of VPC spokes. And paired VPC spokes with overlapping RFC 1918 addresses will be able to utilize CloudNet's inter-VPC NAT feature finally, ensuring that inter-VPC network traffic stays within the Google Cloud network versus traversing the internet to help ensure privacy and security. And they now support mutual TLS if you want that in your load balancer, as well as supports cross-project service referencing in that as well. And then they also announced the Cloud Next Gen Firewall in preview, the cloud's first next-gen firewall powered by Palo Alto Networks, which provides you inline threat protection with 20x higher efficiency compared to other cloud firewalls, a built-in distributed firewall architecture, unified network security posture controls, and a simplified single policy threat response. All this network stuff was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are some long-awaited features. Like, you're making fun of the global access and global backends, but as someone who does build a lot of internal services, this is great because I no longer have to advertise my service publicly to get stuff like HA, in multi-regions. And so I can have a single application and multiple pools run in different regions, but it's a single endpoint, and GCP will route that traffic as I set via policy. I don't have to worry about failing, that kind of thing. It will keep on track of the health checks and use latency or whatever I've defined as a policy and route it wherever I need it, which I really like. It's when it works, it's much simpler than, trying to do something with latency based, like public IPs. And if you've ever had to go change the mailing address in RN for your subnet because it's routing traffic to the wrong region in the US, it's a little complicated. So this is nice. I like it.
Yeah, the intra VPC NAT feature, just staying in the Google Cloud is great because I know I've never really dealt that much with Google Cloud, but in AWS and Azure, living inside there is great, and not having to knowing that, hey, the peering connection stays more local, and makes life a lot better and makes security people a lot happier. So it's a great feature to add there.
Yeah. I mean, GCP, you've been able to define a global VPC across multiple regions. But then the first thing you realize is that, you've got this subnet in this region, this subnet in this region. You can manage that pretty easily. But then you hit all the service limits as you peer to all the various internal services of GCP and your other services and everything. And it's all a centralized object. And so now with, being able to support multiple VPCs and crosstalk between them, you can sort of grant more granular IAM access to people who can make changes to just the VPC they own. And then you can, seamlessly route traffic to the other regions. And then it all supports, the private service connect backend as well. So it's you've kind of got your cake and eating it too, in the sense of your routing layer or your subscription model for managing traffic.
Yeah, I do made fun of it, but I do appreciate it. It's just, I don't know, the troubleshooting is always the complicated part of these things, and remembering these weird idiosyncrasies sometimes will bite you.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're entering into the AI portion of the keynote.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. But first up, Google Distributed Cloud, which is the ability to run Google Cloud services in your data center or on your own hardware, is expanding to now support Vertex AI integrations, as well as a new managed offering of AlloyDB Omni on your GCD-hosted infrastructure. So if you have a need to run Postgres AlloyDB, you can now do that in your data center on Google managed hardware and services, just like Outposts or things like Amazon for their RDS type databases. All right, I'm going to now say a lot of words that may make you think I'm having a stroke, but I'm not, I promise. There's just a lot of weird names in this space. So Vertex AI has gotten a ton of new things. I already mentioned to you guys earlier the Llama 2 support, but they also got Palm 2 support, it's Imagify, Cody upgrades, new tools to tune the Palm 2 and the Cody libraries and language models. Technology innovation includes Falcon LLM, which is a popular open source model, as well as a pre-announced Claude 2 from Anthropic. Vertex AI extensions will now allow developers to access, build, and manage extensions that deliver real-time information, incorporate company data, and take actions on the user's behalf. This is an example of using Vertex to basically connect directly to a CRM system like Salesforce to hydrate data, etc. A new enterprise grounding service, which I don't know what that is, but I love the name of it. Grounding sounds awesome. Then a new digital watermarking feature, which allows you to watermark images generated by Vertex AI image technologies, allowing you to get a better idea of where the data came from and how it generated that particular image, which is important. If they ever are able to copyright AI images, you'll need to be able to do this. They're offering state-of-the-art technology that embeds that watermark directly into the image of the pixels, making it invisible to everybody else, but only visible to the computer. And then Collab Enterprise, which is an easy way for you to collaborate on Juniper notebooks with enterprise-level security and compliance, which is great. And that was just the first part of AI. So any questions there before I move on to the next set of AI things?
No, other than I hope enterprise grounding service is somehow routing electricity, even though I know it's not.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Then we get into the workspaces part of the world where they announced all the Duet AI capabilities for all the things, even things I didn't know about. But I did get a point because they did GA Google Meets and Google Chat AI Assistant, as well as Workspaces AI has now launched as well. So you have that in Duet AI family. Duet AI for BigQuery provides you a contextualized assistance for writing SQL queries. So for those of you who struggled staring at that SQL prompt in BigQuery going, I don't understand, you can now just tell the computer what you want to query and it'll do it for you. For those of you struggling with your GKE and Cloud Run capabilities and learning how to run an application in a container, Duet AI for GKE and Cloud Run will now help you with assistance to cut down on the time it takes to run a containerized app. For those of you who are trying to tune and optimize those queries, Duet AI and Spanner, AlloyDB, and Cloud SQL helps you generate code to structure, modify, or query data using natural languages, as well as they're bringing Duet AI database migration service to help you automate the conversion of database code such as stored procedures, functions, triggers, and packages. And then for your security SOC team who's desperately overworked, Duet AI is coming to them in the Chronicle Security Operations Center, Mandiant Threat Intelligence Solution, and the Security Command Center, all available to help you identify and address security issues quicker using the power of AI.
I've made a lot of fun of AI, but the minute I could, I swear when I'm writing SQL queries, and then now I just swear in natural language, and it comes out with a SQL query, and I love it. I honestly, I know what I want, but I do not know the SQL syntax to get what I want. And it is a fantastic feature that I've played around with a little bit for a couple hours. And I will never, ever write SQL any other way.
I really want to connect it to my company's SQL so I don't ever have to deal with writing SQL, because my running joke in the company is, if you ever make me touch a SQL database, I'm going to yell. And it's going to end poorly for everyone involved, because I should not ever touch SQL. So if I could just say, like Ryan said, do this for me, it'd be great.
Well, it's funny you say never touch a database, but now everything, the success of a true, data product is that it understands SQL syntax. And so every big data feature, BigQuery, all of these things, it's all just SQL queries. And so I'm being forced.
Oh, I know.
I know, me too.
I just hate SQL.
I mean, I hate SQL Server. I don't hate all the other types of SQL. Like Postgres is fine. MySQL is fine. Just Windows SQL I don't like.
You enjoy writing SQL code?
I don't enjoy it, but I don't hate it like you guys do. But now, but I am also excited for AI. I'm like, well, my to be fair, my extent of SQL querying is select statements and simple updates and upserts. I don't do anything really complicated where I get into super complicated joins and those type of things when I typically am doing what I'm doing in SQL. So from that perspective, I hate it doing those things, but I don't do those very often. And the things I do, it'd be great. And I'm actually right now trying to back up an RDS MySQL database. And if I could use this to figure out how to make that better, because I foolishly thought I'd save time by using MySQL Command Center or the Management Center because we have it set up for this particular database. And I regret everything about it because it's been way harder than it should have been.
That sucks.
It's more because it expects you to have full root admin access, and in RDS land, you don't get that. So I'm running into all these weird, I don't have that permission to use the built-in tool. So if I just gone to the command line like I should have done and just done MySQL dump and MySQL restore, I would have already been done with this problem. So that's what I'm doing after the podcast. Just the way I should have done it to begin with, because I've wasted at least 65 minutes now trying to do it the simple way. That was going to be a shortcut for me because I was trying to be lazy. It didn't work out.
Hey, man. Yeah. Access in the cloud is not the same. That's true. It's a shame that they're treating that access model the same way.
It is. Well, it's Oracle. They don't care about anybody but themselves.
Yeah, fair point.
I'm curious how the security center Duet AI is gonna work. And in the back of my head, I'm also going, so when the world is taken over by AI, it's just gonna mute those alerts in the security ops.
So, I mean, I didn't see a demo of this. I didn't walk by that particular part of the booth. I was in the security AI booth, but not that part of it. What I've seen in other demos, and I don't know for sure on this particular one, but typically you use the AI to ask questions of something you see, something comes up and says hey, this IP address tried to do something weird. And so then you would ask it, how many other systems has this IP talked to? And then it'll answer that question for you. So that's kind of things it does that I've seen so far. I doubt it's much more advanced than that right now, just knowing where we're at with these language models. But that doesn't mean I won't do more in the future. Just right now, I think it's probably more question to answer, or like, hey, I see this pattern. Where else do I see that file on a server, or those sort of questions that you can answer?
I think the real big difference between like AI and natural language processing, where you just ask questions, is really the ability to maintain context between prompts, right? And so, show me all computers that were affected by this IP, and then show me every transaction that was over this many megabytes or whatever, right? And that it can keep that conversation going, and that's really the power in it. And so it's like, if you watch like a security analyst do like some mega Splunk queries, like it's really making that a lot simpler. So, and not having to know a direct DSL or specific product syntax also helps quite a bit.
And then when they get to images, they just go enhance.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the analytics side of the place, which was pretty quiet for a cloud conference that with analytics in general. But they did announce the BigQuery Studio, a single interface for data engineering, analytics, and predictive analysis, which will increase efficiency for data teams. Plus, it integrates into the Vertex AI foundation models, because you still have to shove AI into it. Mm-hmm. And then they also announced for analytics AlloyDB AI, which offers an integrated set of capabilities for easily building Gen AI apps, including high-performance vector queries that are up to 10x faster than standard Postgres. So again, more SQL queries from AI.
I have to admit, I didn't catch any of this while at the conference, so I have no idea what any of this is.
I didn't either. We were all too busy. AI. What's this vendor do? Oh, AI. Perfect. Analytics. No one was talking analytics. Analytics is dead. Long live AI. And then the last set of announcements was all around security space, of course, because they did buy Mandiant last year. So first up is Mandiant Hunt for Chronicled, which allows you to integrate the latest insights into attacker behavior from Mandiant's frontline experts with Chronicle security operations. This does happen to be the booth that I stopped at in the convention center, and I made Ryan stop there as well, only because it had a pretty graphic, and I'm an executive, and I love pretty graphics. I showed you all the different vulnerabilities that existed in the flow, and we were chatting with people who had no interest in actually demoing it to us. So we just kind of stared at it awkwardly for about 3 minutes. And then we said, we're going to go. And then we walked away.
We made some small talk. Yeah. It did. The pretty picture did stop Justin like dead in his tracks though. So like, if you're ever wondering whether you need to put that image in their slide deck, yeah, it works.
Yeah. It's a cool visual.
It
was
really cool.
It was a really cool visual. Like, I mean, like it's not like, just a chart. It was an interactive chart.
It was it was a live query and a visual and breakdown of all of like the attack vectors of this traffic stream. It was really neat to see.
I did definitely feel like my executive bobblehead at that moment. Like, ooh, my executive side just came out and was like, ooh, pretty, which is not what you need in a security tool. But it's still good. I really appreciate it. The other things in this particular space, of course, agentless vulnerability scanning. This is posture management capability and security command center, detects operating system, software, and network vulnerabilities, which is very similar to Inspector over on the AWS side of the house. Cloud Firewall Plus adds advanced threat protections and next-gen firewall capabilities we talked about earlier with PAN. And Assured Workloads now supports the Japan region for all your Japanese requirements for encryption keys and administrative access transparency. And for those of you who forget what Assured Workloads are, because it's terribly named, this is the thing that makes sure that only certain citizen types can access certain objects inside projects. This is how you do things like FedRAMP compliance, GDPR, PCI, and now apparently Japanese sovereignty related. So it's good to see.
I wonder, I haven't played around with Assured Workloads. Do you define your own policy to demonstrate GDPR or FedRAMP compliance?
No, they give you checkboxes. You check the box and you put the projects in the folder with the boxes checked, and then those things get applied. So basically, it prevents Google employees from doing things with the servers that are outside of their country. So, it has some other things it does too. For people who have that need, it's super helpful.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, it's management of cloud objects is a really good offering in GCP. They do really have that part sort of head and shoulders above the rest. Some other things where I'm just like, what? But, that one I like.
All right. So that takes us to our predictions. So Ryan, you predicted generative AI prediction of FinOps practice and cost management AI solution. You swung and a miss on that one. I'm sad about this one though. Of all of the items that missed on this list, this is the one that I'm actually kind of the most shocked about, and also the saddest that didn't come. Because considering all the other awesome AI stuff we got, why can't we get FinOps?
And they've doubled down on Looker. Like I thought I knew exactly where this one was going to come from, just because of all the work that they've done in the last year with Looker and productizing that and combining it with Data Studio and doing all these things. I was convinced that you just threw AI in there somehow and it would come. But nope.
They did announce the FinOps Hub, but they didn't talk about it on main stage, and they didn't really even talk about it anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they give you a score, or your FinOps score, based on a 5-point scale. But it's basically just a dashboard just so you have an AWS or another thing. So it's nothing really fancy. It's nice. The score is apparently tied to like your peer benchmarks, which is kind of interesting, and a maturity model they've kind of defined. So there are some nice things in it, but it wasn't main staged, number one.
Nope.
And number two, it was no AI in it. So
nope.
Sorry on that one. And I forgot about it just when we were talking about it. It's one of those mini announcements that kind of ended up in a breakout session they didn't do a press release on because they're silly.
I did play around with it today, though, because I was interested.
How did you find out about it, though? Like, out of curiosity. How did you find it?
Because it was just available in the product for day
I
one.
only found out about it because I'm in the FinOps Foundation, and someone was chatting about it. Like, oh, this tool is kind of cool. I really like this. They had some questions with the peer benchmarking, where that came from, but and how they determined who your peers were, which is a good question.
That is a good question. Yeah, none of that was in the console, just the scores.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sorry about that one, but I hope maybe that comes soon. Because it seems like an obvious extension of AI is FinOps. A networking feature that only supports IPv6. I did not hear a single word of IPv6 or IPv4 anywhere at the conference or in any booth. So I think you definitely missed on this one.
If anything, the VPC spoke where they're transparently natting all your traffic for overlooking IPv4 addresses is like, I should lose the point because that's that's the opposite. So I'll wait another 10 years.
Yep. So Jonathan had TPU v5. It was technically the v5e. We'll let him take it because that's only fair. Although he's not here to take the point. So and then he did not have generative AI for contact center and or retail AI, which not a lot of retail type stuff. They did have some customer use case stories, including a Wendy's booth on the show floor that had no food. So it was a Wendy's booth drive-through, no food.
Ooh. Come on.
Nothing. And like, this is such a huge marketing opportunity. And like, literally, people were tweeting about the Wendy's booth on Twitter, and I saw people who lived in San Francisco going like, "Oh my god, if there was a Wendy's at Moscone Center right now, I would be there in 10 minutes." Mm-hmm. I mean, they wouldn't be able to get in because the security was pretty tight, but at least like apparently there's a need for a Wendy's in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. If you're a franchisee, you should put one there because apparently it's in demand.
And I mean, they had it set up with like a drive-through. Like it looked like it served food.
It did. There was no food. So then I have Google Bard and Workspaces will be general availability. I got that right. And then I said
it's not Bard.
It wasn't hard. And then, Bard is behind Duet AI. Like when you read the docs, it's all Bard.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I mean, we can argue about it.
I didn't get a point, so I'm just going to be pedantic and pick over everything.
All right. I mean, technically, I guess. I mean, Google Bard. Maybe I should have said DeepMind here. I've been clearer because I think Bard's actually being rebranded to DeepMind. Kind of what the impression I was getting is that they're realizing Bard's a dumb name, which it is. And then I had the negative, which was they're not going to announce anything new, which they announced stuff. So that was dumb choice. Matt, you gave us 4 items, and we only decided to pick 2 because we were all struggling to go for the 2 each, and so we just took the 2 that we felt were the least likely for you to get a point on. No, I'm just kidding. We tried to we let you pick up we picked yours out of your list at the very end, so you didn't get the ranking or the prioritization, and we just chose the 2 that seemed the best out of what was left. So you had being able to access Bard via an API similar to what ChatGPT is available to you in Azure. That did not come. I mean, there are, in fairness, but you didn't specify it, there are lots of APIs for the things they announced with Duet AI, but not specifically a LLM via an API that's publicly available unless it's through Vertex, which I feel doesn't get you a point.
No, I don't get a point. I agree with that. I know what I was going for there, and it wasn't.
And then additional security tooling via CI/CD, which I thought was also an excellent choice. I was also kind of sad this one didn't come either. Not as much as I was sad about the FinOps one, but this one was kind of the second big miss for me. And then the other two in green, because we only chose two, we said if you hit either of those, we wouldn't give you any points, but that we would at least give you credit. And
That's fine.
You didn't really hit either of these either. Announcing that they gained market share, they didn't talk about that at all. And then the other one was some sort of competitor to AWS Lattice. And I'm giving you like a really hard stretch here that I'm giving you cross-cloud connectivity as sort of like that. And some of those other things that we talked about the load balancers and interconnectivity. Not exactly the same thing, but I'm giving you I'm going to give you a sort of half credit towards it.
Okay, so I'll get 0.1 points then.
Yeah, you're still beating
which
me.
I'm okay with.
Yeah. So
yeah, which is all that matters.
So that brings us to tiebreaker because Jonathan and I are tied. And I had 6 announcements and Jonathan had 9. And I didn't bother to count them up, but I know it's more than 9. So Jonathan wins the Google Next draft. So congratulations, Jonathan. Even though he's not here to take his victory lap, he can do that next week, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts about Google Cloud Next that we didn't cover or things?
I did enjoy that because not only did they do the press release right at like the kickoff, they also like at the beginning of the keynote, like bam, all the announcements all on one slide, just right up front. Like, and so it was nice to know that Justin had lost that tiebreaker immediately.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
And then you were hoping still that something would come out for you, and nothing.
I did. I was like, oh, and then there'll be more. And so like I had all the dream crushing experience of.
Yeah, you even went to the developer conference hoping something would come with the developer keynote, and you got nothing. You just
although I do not regret that because the developer keynote was amazing. Forrest did a really great job. Singing in a conference, like if I say those words, it sounds terrible, but they pulled it off. Him and his team, and there were some really good announcements there and some really powerful demos that Justin knows. It got me all fired up where I was like chomping at the bit to get home so I could play around with stuff, which is, it's always a really good demo if you're driving that kind of excitement.
Yeah, and I'll admit I have not watched that one yet. It is on my radar to do. I had to rewatch TK's this morning, and I forgot how bad that one was.
Yeah, that one was
so
painful.
I lost momentum to watching the developer one after that. And then there's a couple really good ones I want to check out. I was sharing some of them at work today. There's a Terraform HashiCorp session, which apparently was quite good. There's a couple others as well that are definitely on my radar. I'm going to check out when I have some free time, which means I'll forget about it in a week and never look at them again. But I have a dream that I will watch them the next few days.
Yeah.
So
sometimes I eke out one or two.
Yeah, sometimes they're good background noise when I'm annoyed at something else. Just pop one on and listen to somebody talk about how the product's supposed to work that I'm trying to use right now that isn't working the way they said it was going to work. That's my favorite.
Did I get this wrong? Do I just misunderstand what it's for?
Yeah. All right. And then we're moving on to Azure, who had some just, meh announcements, but I felt like we left them out if we didn't talk about them. So first up, you can now get trusted launch hardening on all of your Azure VMs by default. These are security features that allow administrators to deploy virtual machines with verified and signed bootloaders, OS kernels, and boot policies. Why this took so long, I don't really understand, because I'm pretty sure Google and Amazon have defaulted to this for quite a while now. That they at least do some type of verification at boot that the server is the server that it said it was going to be on the hardware that it said it was going to be on. And things go bad if this gets corrupted. So you definitely want to make sure this is good, in good shape.
I don't know if Amazon does this by default, and Google only partially does it by default.
Yeah, Nitro does it by default.
Nitro is its own thing. Yeah, definitely Nitro.
Remember, Oracle had that whole pitch where they were saying that they were the only cloud provider that verified that the image that you're running is the image you said it was. It was like their whole unbreakable cloud bullshit. Well, then Amazon basically said, we've had that forever and we turned it on by default. So shut up, Oracle. So they've had it for a while.
Nice. Okay.
You got to turn it off. You can turn it off, but you have to choose to turn it off.
Gotcha. Well, having just been bit by the hardware signature policy, I'm not sure. I'm still trying to get my hand around, do I care about my VM having signed representation of its hardware set?
I remember when this was a big thing was when Sony had those DVDs or Blu-rays that had a cracked bootloader on them, and they would infect your machine, and then you could never get rid of the virus until you like reformatted and wiped the BIOS out. So like there are some really horrendous attacks that the TPM is there to protect, and they really came to desktops and laptops first. Mac was the first adopter really of the TPM standard, and then like Windows 11 actually requires you to have TPM enabled hardware, where you can't upgrade to Windows 11.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For that same reason. So I don't know what the situation on the Linux side of the world is. I assume there's some type of TPM guarantees that can be enforced, probably optionally, unlike Windows 11 or Mac that requires it, because Linux people like you have knobs and things to pull. But it's kind of prevalent everywhere at this point, and it is a security thing you should do. But is it a big risk profile? Right now, no. But next week there could be a 0-day that's installing a bootloader, and now you really want this to be on.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I misunderstand like where this gets, but a lot of it seems very hardware based. So like when Macs you do it makes sense. You don't want someone plugging in like a boot device in and taking over, getting access to the rest of the thing, that kind of thing. But in a VM land, it does seem a little like suspect, and just because it burned me recently, because of an uninstall basically corrupted the signature and rendered the VM unusable, and sort of like, I don't know.
I mean, that's not really a Windows failing as much as that's a uninstaller doing a bad, being a shitty product, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely not a Windows thing. I'm just trying to figure out if the value of having that cryptographic server signature be verified at boot time is really worth it.
Yeah.
But that's only a small part of this announcement too, right? There's a couple.
Yeah. Well, just don't ever install that software again. You'll never have the problem again.
That is a given.
And then our last Azure story is Azure Container App Jobs now support the ability to something that was announced at Build is now generally available. This is the ability to support 3 trigger types: manual, scheduled, and event-driven container app jobs. Manual jobs are triggered by a user or an external system, such as another container app. And common scenarios for jobs include running a one-time containerized data migration job, for example, running a scheduled recurring containerized batch job, such as a nightly inventory processing job, running a containerized job in response to an event, like a S3, it's Azure, so it's going to be a blob object, or running a CI/CD build process, such as Azure Pipeline Agents and GitHub Action Runners. And in addition to that, you also have the ability to now define those container apps with user-defined routes, NAT gateways, and smaller required subnet sizes, so you can run more of them and run out your IP space, which is great. So yeah, if you're into container app jobs and using these to do kind of your scheduled tasks, this is nice. I actually like this feature.
Yeah, no, these little enablements really allow you to couple services together to achieve great things. And it's the thing I was excited to play with is nothing more than that, right? It's an integration that you get to define workflows.
Yeah, well, this is why I like Knative and serverless, right? Is hey, this thing that would have been a scheduled job that would run as a Windows process, in the scheduled task, I now just run as
have a server running all day for that 15-minute thing. Yep.
Exactly. Now I just spin up my Lambda function, my serverless function, my Knative function, my Azure container app job, run my migration or whatever I'm doing, and I'm done. I don't pay for it anymore. This is a great cloud native methodology and pattern. So I really like these ones as well. Typically when they come out. Well, that's it. I'm tired. It's been a long week.
It has.
GCP took it out of me. And, the unfortunate part about moving to Vegas is not that it moved to Vegas. I mean, other than Vegas has its own, we talked about it, reinvent, like how much we hate Vegas sometimes. But is that it's in April. So it's not even a full year away. It's like, it's only in like 6 months.
It felt a lot like tomorrow when they announced it. I have to admit, I'm like, okay.
I mean, I feel bad for us, but I also feel really bad for all the product people at Google, because it took them 2.5 years to announce all this stuff from the last reinvent or last Google Next to this one. So now they only have 6 months to announce a lot more stuff.
Yeah, but it was probably only half of their AI portfolio, so they probably got it lined up.
Yeah, there was someone made a comment on Twitter. Maybe it was Corey Quinn. He was saying he felt like all the AI stuff that they're announcing is like stuff they came up with in response to OpenAI. And so he kind of laughs at them when they keep saying, we invented this. And I don't disagree with him. I think they're just applications of the models, and how you're using the models. And those probably did come out shortly after ChatGPT came on the scene. But I do feel like the technology and the stuff that underpins a lot of their AI is pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, and it's deeply integrated, right? You can build an app on top of ChatGPT, and you can use the APIs to query data and handle the prompts. But what Google is doing is really just embedding it alongside the rest of the services, so that it's no longer like they're marketing as a separate thing right now because it's different. But it's just BigQuery. It's just what BigQuery is going to be. You're going to ask your query in a different way, and it's going to like it's going to change the way we sort of work with these products. And so for me, that's the big difference. And I'm going to get a lot more value out of doing it this way versus having to build out, a whole set of integrations to work with ChatGPT or, try to like cross it in there. So I like it. We'll see. There's going to be a need for both.
There will be. All right. We'll see you next week here at the Cloud.